Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Reality Saturday. In this one, we will simply prove Notnilc. It's define or redefine for anybody new what it is. It's more of a frequency. It's people operating as the spiritual adversary, not secret societies and people in back rooms that say, get me a Subway sub with extra tuna fish. It's not people in groups and trilateral commission. That's the level that it wants you stuck at. Redefine what is Notnilc, and then prove there is a spiritual adversary here, which is really pointless to even do because it's so easy to see. Once you can see through the basic trick here, and then see what it wants anybody that doesn't have their head up their ass to notice about the trick, to get stuck at the graduated animal farm level. It's the secret societies. And once you can see through that, seeing that there is a spiritual adversary here is very simple. But we'll start with the absolute basics. Actually, we won't, and it forces me to do this more often than I would like. Because they tell us they're fighting an international war, I have to go check on Duluth and Dubuque much more than I normally would. So 1 minute here, anybody that's getting offended or sickened by the headlines, remember, I'm absorbing the negative energy. I'm your deflector. 1 minute or so, Houthis enter the Iran war with missile strike against Who the hell are the Houthis? Well, I looked into it for you. This are these rebel groups in Yemen. And you might say, oh my gosh, Matt, this is getting close to World War III. Another group has entered the conflict. Another chess piece is on the board. Not really. Saudi Arabia as a surrogate for the United States has been bombing the crap out of Yemen for about 15 years. This is not a really big deal. But actually, it proves Notnilc. I don't think I'm going to start with this in terms of proof of Notnilc, but I'll come back to it. Also, I didn't think, I was just checking on Duluth and Dubuque, I didn't think proof of Notnilc would be right here in front of me, but it's all over the place. Look at the bottom right. NCAA basketball. Duke and UConn survive scares as they move on in the basketball tournament. If anything were real, there wouldn't be off to the right. There's always a useless nonsense headline about sports or a pitcher hurt their arm or some sort of new dance that's sweeping the United States. If anything were real, these international wars, it's not completely wag the dog, but if it wasn't just a complete coordinated Notnilc act in the play, there wouldn't be nonsense right on the home page all the time. It shows you. It can't, if there's an international war going on that could just a few steps away lead to a World War III, all the headlines would be reciteer. You wouldn't have nonsense sprinkled in. This is how the Notnilc gives itself away. Matt, in terms of proving Notnilc, you better do better than that. I am going to come correct better than that, but we just happen to be on this page. Now we'll leave it. Getting back to Midnight Reality and proof of Notnilc, I remind everyone, Midnight Reality is not a 1.25 speeded up exercise so you could get into the bathroom. You know why it's not the main reason? Because you need to think about these things closely for yourself. It's not just about listening to Matt while you clean the toilet. Okay, it's about thinking through these things, which can only be done at normal speed. I talk too quickly anyway. Think it through. What does it mean to you? Your spiritual journey. It's not let's get through this, Matt. I can get back to the bathroom. And I'm going to, in many cases, if you're doing 1.25, I'm going to speed up my talk. I'm going to speed up my talk so you won't be able to understand it 1.25. If you put this on 1.25, you're an asshole. Sorry. This is so you can think about your spiritual place and position in all this. We can only do that if we go through this relatively slowly. You see how that works? That you have to think about this? Not just more Comet for the toilet. That's not how these work. Now, what are the elements of proving Notnilc? Proving it exists. First, a basic definition that there is a spiritual adversary here that's trying to block you from what you need to do in your incarnation. Of course, that assumes you existed spiritually before birth and you exist after. There's something here to block you called Notnilc. Now, two very important things in terms of understanding Notnilc. One, this system has people basically seeing that there are adversaries here against us, but not seeing that it is a spiritual adversary or something in the shadows or something that cannot be pointed at in a police lineup. In other words, those that have taken the bait and believe that all the bad guys here have a name, can be pointed at in a police lineup, are the secret societies, are the Trilateral Commission. Those that are stuck at that level Those that potentially, if we're successful enough, can take them all off to jail with Hillary Clinton. That is a sticking point that this reality, this Notnilc, is a master at getting people that just begin to see through the reality, to get them stuck at that level so they never truly understand what's going on. And understanding what's going on is irrelevant. It's understanding what's going on only so you can get to what you need to do for you know what, yourself, your spiritual journey, part 2, the work, and then part 3, are you done with this place? I know what I just said is relatively complicated, so let me go to the absolute basics. You know how many thousands of times over 15 years somebody has come here and said, Matt, when are you going to call out this group? And it's almost always the J people from Israel. When are you going to call them out? And every time I go back and say the same thing. That group, no matter how evil or whatever you think about them, that is where it wants you stuck. That is one of 10,000 things that the higher level in the org chart, the Notnilc, uses that group and thousands of others to accomplish its goal. And what is its goal? It's one sentence every single time: to distract you and block you so you do not complete your spiritual journey adequately. There's nothing the Notnilc loves more than to have people comment to me, and if I were to take the bait and say, yeah, let's call out those J people, let's look at this bad guy, let's look at the Freemasons, that's exactly what it wants. That is idiotic to call out lower level minions on the org chart at this point. They are, yes, even they are lower level minions. It's way off the top chief commander called Notnilc. A Christian calls it Satan. It's basically the same thing. Next, in order to prove Notnilc, or to get somebody to see there's something here that is a spiritual adversary that can't be pointed at, I think it's necessary to get people to see that this place is basically a fake world. Now, that's not the most intelligent descriptor, but there is no better term that we've come up with. It's simply a fake world. This place isn't very real. So the more real you believe it is, then you're looking for the culprits. You're looking for the bad guys. Matt, you don't realize what the Trilateral Commission can do working with this secret group and that secret group, and always putting it to the actions of men and women and nefarious actions of George Soros. And that's, again, the level that it wants you at. But if you believe this place is very real, and you believe in a lot of science, and maybe we even came from a big wang, you're always going to look to groups and men and women and evildoers, and that it is not at that level. They are here on the org chart operating on behalf of Notnilc, but Notnilc is a frequency of this place. It can never be seen, it can never be pointed at, and it is easier to see if you basically come to the conclusion, as I have a long time ago, that this world isn't very real. And proceeding along those lines, let's just give some examples, or some of my favorite examples, to help people see Notnilc, which is, again, goes hand in hand with these things being presented to us as we live our lives that could never happen the way they happen in a real world. It's a fake world. It's proven that to me 1,000 times over. And again, I'm not going to explain this here, but that is the best news of all time. One of my favorite examples to get us started here on step 1, which is seeing the world is fake, is pretend you're dreaming right now, and I can enter your dream and speak to you, like in the movie Inception. And I'm entering your dream, and you're a friend of mine. In this case, I've got to pick a gender. I've got to pick a guy friend in this case. You'll see why, because of the example. I know we can flip-flop genders hour by hour now, but in this case, it's a man, okay? And really rarely has always been a man, if you can believe that. So, and think of the misogynistic example I'm about to give. Ew, you might want to delete this or unsubscribe. My friend is sitting at a bar. And this friend is not, let's just say, been so slick with the ladies. They're Virgos even in a worse position than Levette said mine is, and that's almost impossible. And they just aren't, but they can't, they're not shy, whatever. And we're sitting at the bar, at the end, let's just say we're somewhere in Las Vegas, a place we've only been there a few days. We're unfamiliar with what does that matter? I guess it doesn't. Setting the scene here doesn't matter, Matt. Get on with it. beautiful women. This, let's just say in this case, this deranged person still likes women. No, that's wrong today. These beautiful women keep coming up and almost throwing themselves at my friend, and I'm in their dream, remember, and different executives and showgirls, all different types. Would you like to buy me a drink? Or wow, what do you just stuff that's never happened to this individual. And it's obvious now that four women have thrown themselves at my friend Joe here, and I said, Joe, I've got to. I'm in your dream. This is a dream. And he said, what do you mean? The dream character never realizes it's a dream character. There's a man in a bed, right? This isn't a dream or whatever. Joe, I'm in your dream. When was the last time? Think about we're friends at junior high. We're friends in high school. Remember you went to ask that girl out for the prom and she threw her orange juice on your head? When was the last time four beautiful women inside of 5 minutes threw themselves at you? And he might say, well, wait, that's impossible. Yeah, that doesn't happen to me. Perhaps this could be a dream. That's exactly what we need to do in Middle Earth, one level up, because this impossible shit keeps happening to us in the waking world, which is just one dream level up. That's almost as ridiculous as the scenario, or 1,000 times worse, or more absurd than the scenario I just presented. So in summary, to remember what we just did, I might reference quickly Joe at the bar. It's a scenario where the dream character should be able to, if it's somewhat lucid, understand that it may be a dream because these things just don't happen to that person. So it's the same thing here, and we could just do this hour after hour. When was the last time, we'll start here, we're not the dream character, but we are compared to our higher self. It's just one level of Middle Earth up. When was the last time humanity got a win? So you and I are at the bar right now and somebody's coming up to us, but here in the waking world, proving this place is basically as fake as the dream scenario. When was the last time humanity got a win? That by itself gives away fake world. In terms of what, Matt? Well, think through it. In terms of anything, a cure for this major type of cancer, I don't know. A new economic breakthrough where they can guarantee inflation will be zero for the next 10 years. I know that's trivial, but anything. And I mean anything. I could pause here and think about all of our ills and all the things, but just anything. We haven't gotten a win, humanity in general. Since what? I mean, this is impossible in a real world. What, you have thousands of university research labs doing this and doing that, and the Human Genome Project, and for what? All this stuff for what? What wins have we gotten? That'd be enough to wake the dream character up. If I was talking to Joe at the bar, he'd be like, yeah, we haven't gotten any wins as humanity as long as I've been alive. He would say, this is obviously a dream. This can't be very real. It's ridiculous. Do I have to go back to what? Penicillin or something? And even there's some hardcore, very strange truthers that think that's fake. That's really weird. And that always comes up. Oh my gosh. They think that penicillin, it doesn't work or something. Penicillin, there's some things that actually showed up over the past 400 years that benefited a few people. Penicillin has saved the lives of tens of millions of people, if not hundreds of millions. The old days, you could scratch your finger in a certain way, in a certain scenario, and with a certain infection, or if you lost the finger in gangrene, a scratch on the finger could lead to your death. And if you ever want to talk to anybody about these sorts of things, people that don't see the world the way we do, my presentation here is far too complicated. You have to go to the absolute basics, and you have to lead them to a degree. Say, can you name a big win that we've gotten in the past 50 years that humanity collectively can celebrate together, like a cure for this or penicillin or whatever? And then you say non-technological win. Oh, the Notnilc will give us things that it'll position as big wins. Oh, look at this phone, man. Look, iPhone 666. Oh, we got all this technology and the internet. And then if people are being honest with you, the Joe sitting next to you at the bar, you could say, is that technology really improving your life? And he'd say, "Oh, my first instinct is to be the palace guard and to make excuses for it, but I've had like 3 or 4 gin and tonics, and this technology sucks, man. It's making my life worse. Everything is two-step verification. I got one of those services that come clean up my dog poop in the yard. You know, because people go off to work and a service comes. You've seen a little van rides around. I'll clean your poop." And it had two-step verification. I tried to log into my account. I said, "I want you to clean up the poop twice a week instead of just once a week. Two-step verification for poop." Remember in the movie with Russell Crowe, A Beautiful Mind, the professor, the guy from Taxi, whatever his name is, he says, "John, with a breakthrough of this magnitude, I think you'll get any placement that you want." "Wheeler Labs, sir." With a breakthrough of this magnitude. In this case, the breakthrough was a collusion model, so the Notnilc can collude all its corporations, so they can all work together. You think Coke is actually a rival with Pepsi? Yeah, of course, they're all working together, but with a breakthrough of this magnitude. Well, where's the breakthrough of that magnitude that helps the people in any area but technology? Yes, we keep going back to the cures. They have most of these cures, in my opinion. It's okay, put it on yourself, Matt. Pootie Tang Award. They have them already, but they don't. But let's just say they don't have them for the sake of argument here. All these university research parks, all these laboratories, all this high-tech testing and quantum computing. What am I getting out of all this? I've got squat. I might as well stick my thumb up my own ass. That's more pleasurable than what all this tech is giving me. To summarize this section, guys, we could just do this hour after hour, day after day, all the different things where it does its research and spends money. And when the dust settles, we get nothing out of it. I'm sitting here still, I'm literally, for the last 50 years, I can't think of one thing where humanity could celebrate together. And that's not by itself proof of Notnilc. And then go into the weeds over here, the ice bucket challenge. Remember that? Oh, people pouring their buckets. Oh, look at these TikTok videos. And they're funny, and they're funny, they're funny. Billions or whatever, billions raised. Those poor ALS people are in the exact same situation. I know one. No new drugs, no new therapies. Where'd all that money go for Ice Bucket? The person would say to me, "I have no idea." But then the fourth grade truther will come before me and say, "Matt, you may think that these dark groups are farther down the org chart. I think they're higher up. But we both admit, Matt, that there are shadow governments, secret societies, groups working against the benefit of humanity in their own self-interest. And yeah, we generally agree." They would say, "Well, Matt, if, let's say, some university research park, a group of friendly guys and gals had a cure for this or that, or a major cure for this, the men in black would probably know the same day." Right? And I would agree. And they would show up, Matt. See, this all can be controlled, Matt, by men and women. The men in black would show up and say, "We hear you're close to a cure for this. You give it to us. And oh, by the way, we've just wired $40 million into your account. You give it to us because, see, we can make sure all of humanity benefits from what you're doing here. You give us all the research." Remember the truth drop in the movie Thor? They stole all what Natalie Portman, they stole all her research? That's a truth drop in Thor, that you just give it all to us. And we'll make sure all of humanity will benefit. And all the shiny, happy people in the university research parks say, "I'll give it to you. Yeah, they're better equipped to making sure humanity benefits." And yeah, they just pay me $40-50 million in my account. Then decade goes by. Then decade goes by. I'd say, "My humanity hasn't benefited from what we did." And then somebody says, "Maybe you shouldn't say anything because you've spent a good amount of that 50 million or whatever they just gave you. Why don't you just be quiet and order another drink from Isaac on the Ship of Fools?" Maybe that's what happened. But the point is, yeah, the first grade truther would say, "Matt, it can be controlled, see, by secret societies." So for me to truly prove Notnilc, I have to combine these sorts of examples with proving the world isn't very real, fake world, which is really, really easy to do at this point. And to do that, it's one of my favorite topics of all time to talk about, the Goldilocks principle of a fake reality. hundreds of different things. Just, oh, what a coincidence that two hydrogen molecules just happen to bind with an oxygen. If it didn't do that, all of life wouldn't exist. And somebody's yelling at me right now saying, well, life would adapt it in another way per Darwin. Oh, sure. Yeah, we could just remember all the thousands of examples of Goldilocks we've presented, just the amount of sunlight and how far they say the Earth is from the sun. And I let's not do a sidebar. I'm well aware of all that, but that's part of the fake presentation, is it not? Isn't that part of the Goldilocks? Oh, aren't we lucky? I mean, you don't just jump on me and say, Matt thinks this is real and it's fake. Yeah, I know all that. The presentation is ridiculous. Oh, Earth is presented, right here between Venus and Mars, in that perfect little place, or life wouldn't exist. Oh, sure. Yeah, and we talked about recently, if wood didn't burn, our ancestors for tens of thousands of years, like they cut tree down. We cut tree down, put tree in fire. It don't burn. It just smolders like smoldering, like throwing a rubber Goodyear tire onto it. Then all of life wouldn't exist. You know how many things have to come together perfectly for life to exist? I don't believe in 1 in 10 trillion coincidences. For everything to come together perfectly in the Goldilocks fashion, it's about 1 in 10 trillion. When the odds are that ridiculous, then it's not 1 in 10 trillion. It's 1 to 1. It's a fake construct that was meant to be this way, and it's here to fool you. The whole thing's a trick. Every bit of it's a trick. So aren't we, all the scientists, aren't we lucky that the two hydrogens bound with the oxygen or all of life wouldn't exist? No, it just seems that way. You're looking at it all came from a big wang. No, it was meant to be this way. Once your probabilities cross just 1 in 10,000, it was meant to be. But we're up to 1 in 10 trillion. Scientists, if you look at all the probabilities collectively, it's 1 in 10 trillion, or much worse. Scientists buy that. What type of idiots are we talking about here? When it gets over 1 in a billion, folks, it's no longer a probability or coincidence. It was meant to be this way. And then some dummy, Matt, you believe in intelligent design or whatever, or God could have played. Somebody made this place, of course. I don't know if it's your God, or if it's your God, your Krishna, your Vishnu, your Allah, your God of the Old Testament. What is he? He doesn't have no name, right? He's Yeshua, but he says, I am that I am. I don't know what that means. Moses should say, what you mean I am that I am? Speak plainly, sir, and put this burning bush out. There's a wildfire threat around here. It's been awful dry. Whatever. Whoever built this place. You may have built it. It's a fake construct. People believe in it. This is ridiculous, man. But backing up a bit, I certainly can't prove the existence of Notnilc to anybody on the street that doesn't see the basic trick that this world puts forth, the Palaskar, those that believe in every bit of it. I mean, this is what we're dealing with, of course. I complain about this in every single video. 99 point whatever % of the population out there believes, as well as some of the commenters in recent videos for some reason, people actually that are here, believes that the United States doesn't have the capability in terms of its endless amount of military hardware to open up the Strait of Hormuz. And I don't want to get into a big thing because I've been dealing with this a lot or addressing this recently. Where are the 5 carrier groups? Shouldn't they be running up and down the Strait of Hormuz? Are all 5 carrier groups in the Strait of Hormuz? If it's so important that it open up, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, there's actually some people here that left comments that they believe the Iranians can actually control the Strait of Hormuz. This blows my mind. It's almost like we're operating or coming from different realities. Even some of the people that comment here. Like whatever I'm attached to, being 55 years old, attached to being born in the 1970s, being raised in the 70s and 80s, in that reality, just 100 planes in the air, with no other, with air superiority or air supremacy, with no real threat, could open up the Strait of Hormuz, just 100, let alone the tens of thousands of other pieces of military hardware that the United States has. So if, again, your Aunt Ginny or your Uncle Barry, if they can't see through the trick of this world, of course, I mean, you have to be able to see this as what here is a trick or a deception or there's an evil influence, and then you have a chance of proving Notnilc. I can't prove Notnilc to the 1st through 5th grade truther because they always have to have it explained away between the reality bookends. It has to be the actions of men and women and evil doers like George Soros and secret societies. And we've proven over and over again that that just doesn't work. Think of all the tens of thousands of things that, quote, whatever you want to call it, that they've pulled off on the population in terms of the trick or the ruse that's here, or what they've done to us in our pursuit of truth, and all the false breadcrumbs it's led us down. And we see now it's a conspiracy generation machine. If we get interested in something, the false world shows us more of what we're interested in. No real world could do that. But once you start to do a little bit of truth research, and you see that, of course, almost every official story breaks down as being absolute nonsense, and you wet your feet in terms of conspiracy, then very quickly you see the tens of thousands of things that somehow it's pulled off, where the conspiracy researchers were able to see through it, and we may disagree as to what happened to JFK, but we see that the official story is total bullshit. We may disagree on what exactly the Apollo, Gemini, and Mercury missions were all about, but we see that the official story is bullshit. The point is, once we have that common ground and we see it's pulled off, tens of thousands of gigantic events where the people believe it, yet we see through it. There's no possible way organizations of men and women, maybe 5 things they could have pulled off, 5 big things, but tens of thousands where the people can't see through it, but we can. And of course, if my friend Tony was listening to this, he'd say, well, that proves y'all delusional. Because, right, there's not going to be tens of thousands of things that I can't see through that you guys can. That's just more proof, of course, of a fake world. But to think that tens of thousands of ruses laid down and everybody buys it and we see through it, all coordinated by secret societies and men and women making phone calls, or I guess in the 90s sending faxes, or sending just text messages without accompanying images in the early 2000s, all pulled off by, it's impossible. These are the same, these people, first off, are no smarter than whoever's listening to this. No smarter than me. Maybe some have evil genius, Dr. Evil level of intelligence. But remember what that trainer said in Seabiscuit. He says, this is the guest quarters for horses? And he's like, they still crap. Yeah, the secrets, I'm hungry. You going to Subway sandwiches? We got some secret meeting here. Dr. Evil's coming. Get me tuna sub with pickles. Who puts pickles on a tuna sub? Just get it for me. I'm hungry. Oh, yeah. Just men and women pulled all this off perfectly. Men and women who smell it in the armpits and... Yeah, but Matt, at the ground level, it is men and women walking around to pull all this off, and constructing the Saturn rocket has to be Saturn for the Apollo missions. And yes, but not on their own. Not just the same men and women in smoking rooms asking for more sandwiches to be brought in. Something is very, very powerful here, but it's in the shadows. Notnilc. Some people call it Satan. Some people call it Jinn. Something powerful that's a frequency. A resonance, a download, a radio station, something that can control the minds or the actions of those that participate in its schemes or choose to get under its dragon's wing. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm trying to run away from it in the opposite direction as far as I can. But I basically understand or see what's going on here. There has to be something else on the org chart other than men and women in secret societies, no matter what you want to call it or name it. This thing is extremely powerful. It's okay to say that because it was put into this reality to play the role of the bad guy. Maybe it has broken out of its chains and it's gotten loose and it's doing things that it's violating its own contract. It was placed here to be an asshole, it was placed in here to be the asshole dark, to be the Satan, the adversary of the real spiritual being, to block it, to get in its way, to distract. Maybe it's violated its terms and conditions, whatever it may be. but it didn't come in and hijack the reality. It is an intentional bad guy that is necessary. Per Wayne's picture here, all of this for me. Yes, for us. It's necessary for us to go through this experience with this thing here called Notnilc. I have a TV channel on my Comcast Xfinity cable called Me TV. It shows all the old shows. For those unfamiliar, at night it shows like back to back to back to back MASH, Barney Miller. It shows some Hogan's Heroes, some All in the Family. But on Sundays, Fantasy Island and Love Boat is shown every Sunday. And I've set the DVR to record Fantasy Island. And I've mentioned this. I've been watching this for months. And, way back when, I got the notion that this is some sort of reality truth drop, Fantasy Island. Somebody coming in and having their fantasy, experiencing something that is so far removed from what they were before they got off the plane. And that, of course, is what this reality is. What we are here is so far removed and different from where we came from. I'm going to make another video about this, but I'm in love with this theme again. I have to talk about it in a dedicated video. Change is the God of this world. Change is the God of this world. I had Gouda again, and I do this every time. It's the most amazing thing in the world to me. Pam will call, "Yeah, I'm going to get Gouda. Why don't we meet halfway?" You could tell, Gouda's here. The cat I watch, he's been here almost 3 years, so he's my cat. I've watched him 3 years out of almost his 14 years old. He's been here that much. That's how much Pam travels, but I'm happy to have him every single, man, we don't want to hear all this. Sorry. So she'll call up, "Hey, let's meet halfway." All, this, that, then I'll go, all of a sudden, I hand him off to her. I come back home, and then I close the door and go, and just like that, he was gone. And it's incredible to know it could be a girlfriend, a lost spouse, a death in the family. All of a sudden, all this complexity, confusion, blah, 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 blah. And my life is very simple compared to yours. I close the door and the house is a little quieter without Gouda. And this is nothing, of course, compared to the change or trauma that you've experienced, many of you. But I always go, just like that, he was gone. And just this world isn't, time isn't very real. We're already dead from the perspective of anybody out of here. Change is the God of this world. It's incredible when change imposes itself on us. So getting back to Fantasy Island, for those of you that have never seen it, people get off this plane. You play, boy, you play the play. People get off this plane and they experience a fantasy that is just 180 degrees or 79.5 degrees from what they were. Somebody wants to be a famous whatever, and they were a janitor back, and sometimes they come off the plane and you go, well, how are people paying for that? How are people paying for these fantasies? But some people come off that they were just like a butcher, baker, or candlestick maker, but still, Mr. Rourke has arranged for this whole town to be built. And, you'd think it's just for multi-billionaires, but some of the people that come off the plane, I think it's very interesting. They make $45,000 a year and have some regular job, but somehow this mystical quality of this Mr. Rourke and tattoo, they arrange for these gigantic fantasies. And I was like, that's just a truth drop. Think about, we didn't have to pay anything well, maybe we did. Could you imagine if we paid for this? If we actually paid for this? Oh, I'm going to slap myself right now. Oh, I'm really slapping myself. Oh my gosh, if I paid for this anyway. So they pay, but in terms of the fantasy that's presented on Fantasy Island, which is a truth drop for this world and us coming in as spirits into your mother's womb, it's not commensurate with the degree or extravagance of the fantasy in terms of what these people have to pay. And there's this mystical, magical quality about Mr. Rourke. Is he an angel in white or a demon or a devil? Is he Notnilc? Of course, there's something to Fantasy Island. Well, Matt, does that? When I get confused, I get scared. I get scared and confused when you say this stuff, Matt. Does that mean the writers and the producers of Fantasy Island, they know every bit of how this reality works? Well, a little bit maybe yes, a little bit maybe no. If they are these sequential incarnations that Tony talked about, they know, have a general sense of what their role is here to play the role of the spiritual adversary. And he said they have a different relationship with higher self, or they remember past lives, know more about what this reality's for. Then in a way, The writers may be giving it an active or a known truth drop, but in many cases also, especially with song lyrics, it's stuff that Vanessa VA used to talk about years and years ago, the retrocausality messages in songs. In most cases there could be a tremendously important spiritual message that is in the song itself that is speaking to you. And does the writer of the song understand that spiritual message and intend it? No. Does the artist, the Sarah McLachlan, know anything about the as above, so below that she speaks of? No. I mean, no. But actually, that's a bad example because the writer most likely isn't all that Hermes thrice great with his girlfriend shit, and there's a lot of that occulted eclectic stuff in the Sarah McLachlan, so that was a bad example. But sometimes, just if Daryl Hall writes a song, my mother went to high school with Daryl Hall at Owen J. Roberts High School. I think she was a senior when he was like a freshman, and something along. They're 4 years apart, I believe, but it might have been he was in junior high when she was in high school. I don't know, but it was Owen J. Roberts. And he might write a song, and it might have a tremendous spiritual message and meaning to you. Of course, he has no idea it's there. The writer, Daryl Hall, writes his own. He didn't intend it, but that does not mean that it's not just you interpreting it. That spiritual message is there, whether you say he channeled it or whatever the reason is. So it's not. I think it happens a little bit both. So the writers of Fantasy Island may be these sequential incarnations that Tony talked about, and maybe it is an intended truth drop. Either way, it doesn't matter. Fantasy Island, that's what this is right now. Matt, this ain't no fantasy. I just got foreclosed on. My water bill is late. I just got shut off. This ain't no fantasy. Well, sometimes in Fantasy Island, it's not just flowers and fantasies either. Sometimes Mr. Works he says to Tattoo, I have something in store for her that she has no idea. That's terrible. Stop it. You can't imitate Mr. Work. I can't. We have something in store for her that she's not expecting. Something very harsh. That happens a lot on Fantasy Island. But guys, okay. I guess I'll shut it down. Fantasy Island's a truth drop, and I agree with what Tony said. We agreed to come here. And we agreed, part of us agreed to incarnate, at least a portion of us, into this place. And those that are triggered, it is a learning experience. It is a school. For those that don't like what I just said, and I'm gonna just make fun of it one last time. I have to every single time this comes up. I know, Matt, what you're gonna say. We've heard it before. I would have never signed up. I would have never agreed to come into that place of trauma and stress and loss. And yeah, you probably did. Stop whining about it. It's the most tremendous experience in the history of the universe. Our community of truth researchers can be so negative, and people need to get a clue. I mean, how many comments under my videos over the years? Matt, you're talking like this and that. This is hell, Matt. This is hell. No, it's not. The heaven here can never be completely stamped out by the Notnilc. I understand some of us suffer more than others. Back to our friend Josh. Yeah, going through life completely, permanently, and totally disabled, a hellish life of suffering. We've talked about why potentially that type of incarnation exists. Maybe he's getting it all done at once. It's even for him, in my opinion, it's not just all negative. Maybe he's like, I want to do this once, and I'm willing to go through the harshest experience possible just so I don't have to do it again, or my higher self can pull every bit of us out of these material planes. I want to get it. And from the timeless perspective of a spiritual being, 60, 70, or 80-year life is nothing. It's nothing. The spiritual being would have laughed, no matter what the level of suffering is. The spiritual timeless being saying, wait a second, no matter what the suffering, it's only going to be 35 years out of, I'm going to live 68 years, 35, I'm going to suffer. The spiritual being, that's 1/1,000,000th of that. It's nothing from that perspective. Of course, you're in the middle of the suffering here. It's quite different, but keep the right perspective. How many comments? Matt, this is hell. Stop saying that. We're in hell right now, Matt. This is the hell realm. Just from, Remember the Titans. See, man, that's the worst attitude I ever heard. Attitude reflect leadership, Captain. Yeah, attitude needs to be reflected based on the big picture. I know it's very difficult for many of you. Okay, I've only experienced one little aspect of it 1 year ago, almost next week. I had that level of pain I didn't know existed, didn't know it was even possible for a body. What happened to me about a year ago. So I've had a little tiny little taste of it, which is small still compared to what many of you have gone through. But in the grand scheme of things, the people that say, "I would have never, my higher self would have never put me in here to suffer." Really? You so sure? So let me get this straight. You have a higher self that potentially has always existed and always will, which is, we can only talk about it in terms of trillions of years. And your suffering here would be the equivalent of 20 years, which to it would be 1/100 millionth of that, or 1/10 trillionth of that. But it's it wouldn't have put you here to suffer, just to get a tiny little taste. 20 years of suffering is a tiny taste from a higher self? Yeah. 20 years of suffering, put y'all spiritually broke ass in here. That's 1/10000000th of that to a spiritual being that's always existed and always will exist. So suck it up and stop complaining. This place is hell. That's the worst attitude I ever heard, man. I mean, I'll give you the touchy-feely cry over the crocus stuff as we leave here. These little, other than the crocus, these little blue flowers pop up. I don't know what they are. I'd love to know, in little bunches. And it's so stupid, and I'm so happy to be something so different than what I would do when I was 25 years old or 28, evolving into something stupid that my earlier self would never understand could possibly. I say, "Hi guys, oh my gosh, how did you guys? You've survived such a tough winter, all the ice and snow." And I'm not crying over them, but I'm like, "Hi, talk to them." Absolutely, Matt. That's grape nut shit. That's treat. Call it what you want. Mostly the point is I look at them and I say, this is absolutely incredible. The cycle of life coming again in spring after such a harsh winter. People flee, they go to Florida to get, there's nothing greater in the world than to go through a harsh winter. And the harsher it is, the more the spring is appreciated. And to see the spring come after a harsh winter. And I lived in Southern California for 3 years. You just don't, you can try to tap into the seasons the best you can, but you just don't get it's not the same feel. And everything in Southern California is confused. Some of the trees, the leaves fall in October and November because they think they're back east or they were raised back east. And they don't know what they should do, and others don't. And it's all confused. And again, the harsher the winter, and that cycle of life, the renewal, it is the most incredible experience of all time. If you notice it, I say it every time. And what's amazing to me is how you think as we go through life, it would just get more habituated to it. Oh, ho, hum, another spring, the same daffodils pop up. I've seen it before. It gets more and more incredible to me every single time. All of these experiences, like Gouda, just like that, he was gone. It's incredible. Now, because to me, it's the way I explain it, I don't know if this is if I'm right about this, but the realization that this is the last time I'm going to do this. Who knows how many times it's been done before via other incarnations of higher self or reincarnation. But when you get the sense that this is the last time we'll experience these material realities or something like Earth, or the nostalgia comes big time. Because, again, who knows how long or how many times we've done this. The whole reincarnation thing is so taboo to many of you I know. And, oh, God, why is that so impossible to believe? It's not that much. Many of you will accept Tony's theory about simultaneous incarnations, hundreds and hundreds of simultaneous incarnations of higher self all happening at the same time, with time being meaningless to the higher self. So they all happen at the same time. And one of you is here in 2026 listening to me, and one of you is playing out the Civil War right now from the perspective of your higher self with happening at the same time. That's relatively, at least people that don't believe in it will keep it on the but then we'll keep it on the table. But the reincarnation thing, just one after the other, I don't think that's likely, but I don't take it off the table. That really bothers so many people for some reason. I don't know why they're so triggered by that. To me, even that makes much more sense than one and done. One and done is absurd to me. Can't get anything done in one lifetime. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. But if it is the last one, and I'm getting a sense that we've done enough, and we're, part two, the work, part three is the complete confidence that enough has been done and we're finished with this place. Then the nostalgia comes, the waves of nostalgia, and the crying over the crocuses, and then the appreciation for the beauty that is here. The incredible beauty that is here that Notnilc can never stamp out. It tries its best. Contractually, it can never do it. And beauty in forms that maybe we'll never experience again. So even the change, I miss Gouda. I'd like to have watched him for 4 or 5 more days. Though he's getting very hard to take care of, especially managing him and Czar. And I do put them together now. After Gouda's behind his screen door for a day or two, they've been around each other so many times that I open the screen door and Matt, what does this have to do with anything? Okay, I'll wrap it up. Czar will for the first day, every time she'll walk by or he walks by, she'll hiss and make a big stink. She's tortitude, a calico. Torty. Tortico's the worst in terms of the bitchy attitude and not accepting other cats. But generally, they get along, but he's hard. He has some special needs. He needs to go to the vet for things, and hopefully we'll get 6 more months with him or a year. But he's not. Doesn't have too much time left for a few reasons that maybe I've mentioned in past videos. So yeah, I'd like to watch him a few more days. All of a sudden he's gone, and just that that appreciation of the change is what I have now. I see it as just like that, he was gone. And change, how it just comes and hits you over the head in this place. But instead of in most change, well, not most, how much is negative? I'm not prepared to think about it. Is it 50-50? Is all negative? How much change can we turn into a positive? But either way, I appreciate how incredible it is when it happens. And I'll just go, that is just incredible. How all of a sudden life is now different. And noticing the incredible experiences that this world brings. Matt, this is turning into some real pathetic grape nuts. Okay. I'll wrap it up. But my positivity in many things did not exist 10 years ago. Oh, another fake mall event. And it didn't exist 15 years ago. I'm proud of myself that I've turned much of this into a positive. I don't think it's a false belief. I think it's a positive evolution. And I'm not just saying this stuff to make myself feel better or to make you feel better. I really believe in this grape nuts bullshit positivity. And I've evolved into somebody that my 28-year-old or 35-year-old self wouldn't recognize. And that's great. I don't want to be recognized by that old son of a bitch. Thanks for listening.